Welcome to Sleepy Stories, a quiet harbour where the day's waves settle and gentle tales carry you to rest. Tonight, let the rhythm of the sea rock you into dreams as we drift into the story of The Pirate's Curse. Chapter 1. The Dying Man's Map. The man smelled like death and cheap rum. Captain Elias Vane noticed him the moment he staggered into the rusty anchor, the tavern's lantern light glinting off the stranger's feverish eyes. The man moved like his bones were too heavy, his salt-crusted cloak dragging across the sawdust floor. He collapsed at Elias's table, his breath rattling. "You're the sea wolf?" the stranger croaked. His fingers, skeletal and trembling, pulled an oilskin pouch from his coat. "This belongs to you now." Elias unrolled the parchment inside. A map, its edges nibbled by time, depicting a jagged island marked with a single X at the centre of the Devil's Maw. A stretch of ocean where compasses spun wildly and ships vanished without trace. "The Isle of Bones," the man whispered, "where the dead walk and the treasure drowns." Then he coughed violently, splattering black blood across the table before slumping forward, dead. Around them the tavern had gone silent. Even the drunken brawlers paused to stare. First Mate Macready, sitting across from Elias, crossed himself. "That's an ill omen, Captain." Elias traced the map's faded ink. It's gold, Mac, nothing more. But that night, as the Marrow set sail toward the Devil's Maw, Elias dreamed of drowning men calling his name. Chapter 2. The Devil's Maw. The storm hit at midnight. One moment the sea was calm. The next the waves rose like black mountains, slamming into the Marrow with enough force to shatter timbers. The wind howled with voices, real voices, whispering in a language that made the crew clutch their ears. "This ain't natural," screamed Finch, a rat-faced deckhand. He pointed to the horizon, where the clouds swirled in perfect rings, lightning flashing upward from the sea. The water itself glowed faintly green. Elias gripped the wheel, his knuckles white. "Hold course." Then the knocking started from below the hull. Thud, thud, thud. The crew froze. Even the storm seemed to pause. Thud, thud, thud. Crack. The deck splintered, not from the outside, from within. Chapter 3. The Sanguine Shadow. The first corpse clawed its way through the broken planks. Its flesh was bloated with seawater, its eye sockets crawling with pale crabs. Yet it moved with terrible purpose, its lipless mouth grinning as it seized the nearest sailor. The man's screams turned to gurgles as his skin blackened, withering like parchment in flame. "Demon!" shrieked the boatswain. More cracks spider-webbed across the deck. More skeletal hands reached up from below. Then the sea exploded. A mast, black as a hanged man's tongue, erupted from the waves. Then another. The Sanguine Shadow rose beside them, its hull studded with barnacles and the bones of drowned men. Its sails hung in tatters, yet billowed as if filled by an unseen wind, and on its deck, shadows, not men, not anymore. Macready fell to his knees. "God save us!" Elias drew his cutlass as the first wraith boarded. The blade passed right through it. The thing laughed, a sound like wind through a graveyard, before dissolving into mist and reforming behind the gunner. Its hollow eyes burned like embers as it plunged spectral fingers into the man's chest. The gunner collapsed, his heart gone. Elias roared orders. "Cannons! Fire at—" The sanguine shadow's hull smashed into the marrow. Wood shattered. Men screamed. Elias was thrown into the churning sea. Chapter 4. The Isle of Bones. He woke on a beach of teeth. Not sand, teeth. Human molars and incisors ground beneath him as he staggered upright. The sky hung low and yellow, the air thick with the stench of rotting kelp. The Marrow's wreckage littered the shore. A handful of survivors, Macready, Koa the Tahitian cook, and 2 others, groaned as they stirred. Then Elias saw her. A woman stood at the jungle's edge, her bare feet half buried in skulls. Her dress might have been white once. Now it was the colour of old blood. Seaweed coiled through her hair like serpents. When she smiled, her teeth were too sharp. "Captain Vane," she said, though he'd never spoken his name. "You're late." Elias spat a fragment of tooth. "Who the hell are you?" She laughed, a sound like waves dragging pebbles out to sea. "Lissa, the last one who tried to open the chest." Behind her the jungle breathed. Something large moved among the trees, something that chuckled. Chapter 5. The Temple of Drowned Men. The jungle swallowed them whole. Lissa led the way, her bare feet silent on the path of broken shells and finger bones. The trees here grew twisted, their bark blackened as if burned from within. Strange fruits hung from their branches, pulsing, veined things that looked more like organs than any natural growth. Elias kept one hand on his cutlass, the other clutching the map. Behind him, Macready muttered prayers while Koa hacked at clinging vines with his cleaver. The 2 remaining crewmen, Pike and Brewer, brought up the rear, their eyes darting at every rustle in the foliage. "You feel it, don't you?" Lissa asked without turning. "The island breathing?" Elias did. The ground itself seemed to rise and fall beneath his boots in a slow, sickening rhythm. The air smelled of copper and spoiled meat, growing thicker with each step. After an hour's march, the trees abruptly ended. Before them rose a temple of slick black stone, its entrance carved into the gaping maw of some sea demon. The stone teeth framing the doorway dripped with moisture. From within came a sound like distant screaming. "The chest is inside," Lissa said, "guarded by those who failed before you." Elias wiped sweat from his brow. "And what happens when we open it?" Lisa's smile showed every one of her needle-like teeth. "That depends entirely on you, Captain." Chapter 6. The Living Chains. The temple interior was colder than the grave. Their breath fogged in the air as they descended crumbling steps into darkness. The walls wept salt water, the droplets forming strange patterns on the stone. Then they saw it. The chest sat atop a dais in the centre of the chamber, its iron surface crusted with coral and barnacles. What Elias had taken for chains at first glance now revealed themselves as something far worse. Thick, segmented things that slithered slowly across the chest's surface like the legs of some enormous insect. Macready made the sign of the cross. "God preserve us." As if hearing the prayer, the chains suddenly went rigid. Then the skeletons began to rise from the shadows at the chamber's edges, not the clean white bones of long-dead men, but corpses still clad in rotting naval uniforms, their eye sockets filled with glowing green brine. Koa swung his cleaver, shattering the first skeleton's skull. "We can't fight them all." Elias's eyes darted between the advancing dead and the chest. The chains were the key. They moved with purpose, almost like they were protecting something. He lunged forward, dodging between skeletal warriors, and brought his cutlass down on the chest's lock with all his strength. The impact sent a shockwave through the chamber. The skeletons froze. The chains went slack. Then the lock shattered. Chapter 7. The Heart of the Curse. The chest creaked open, releasing a stench of rotting flowers and low tide. Inside, resting on a bed of black seaweed, was a human heart. It pulsed rhythmically, its surface glistening with fresh blood despite its obvious age. Lissa fell to her knees. "At last," she whispered, "after 200 years." Elias stared, transfixed. The heart's rhythm was hypnotic, each beat sending ripples through the thick liquid in the chest. Then the whispering started, hundreds of voices speaking as one from the heart itself. "Take me, free me, feed me." Macready grabbed Elias's arm. "We should leave. Now." But Elias couldn't look away. The heart's rhythm was syncing with his own pulse now, each thump sending a jolt through his body. Without realizing it, he took a step forward, then another. "Elias, no!" Macready pulled him back. Lissa laughed. Too late. The heart leaped from the chest as if thrown by invisible hands. It struck Elias square in the chest and sank through his skin like a stone through water. Chapter 8. The transformation begins. Fire and ice. That was all Elias knew. The heart burned through him, sending waves of agony radiating outward from his chest. His vision swam with images. A dark ship sailing under a blood-red moon. A crew of living men slowly rotting at their posts. Lissa, but younger, weeping over this same chest. The first captain, Marcus Dane, plunging his hand into his own chest. "Captain," Macready's voice sounded distant, muffled. Elias looked down at his hands. His veins stood out black beneath the skin, pulsing in time with the foreign heart now beating inside him. When he touched his chest, he felt nothing. No heartbeat, no warmth. Just an empty cavity where his own heart should be. Lissa knelt before him. "You feel it now, don't you? The sea in your veins. The hunger." Elias gasped as knowledge flooded his mind. The names of every sailor lost to the sanguine shadow, the locations of a dozen sunken treasures, the secret paths between waves no living navigator could follow, and the hunger. Oh God, the hunger! He looked at his crew, and for the first time he smelled their blood, heard each thundering heartbeat, knew exactly how their bones would look picked clean by the sea. Koa reached for him. "Captain, we need to..." Elias moved faster than thought. His hand shot out, fingers clamping around Koa's thick neck. The big man's eyes bulged as Elias lifted him effortlessly off the ground. "Elias!" Macready drew his pistol. With his free hand, Elias made a twisting motion. The chains on the floor sprang to life, wrapping around Macready and the others, pinning them to the temple walls. Lissa clapped her hands in delight. "Yes, you're learning." Elias turned his attention back to Koa. The cook's face had gone purple, his feet kicking weakly. The hunger roared inside Elias, demanding to be fed. Then, with a wet crunch, his fingers sank through Koa's throat like it was wet paper. Chapter 9. The Birth of a Ghost Captain. Dawn found Elias standing on the bone-strewn beach, the waves lapping at his boots. The temple lay in ruins behind him, its black stones scattered like a child's forgotten toys. The chest was gone, consumed in the same green fire that had taken Koa's body. Lissa stood at his side, her form flickering between solid and mist. "They're coming," she whispered, pointing to the horizon. This sanguine shadow emerged from the morning fog, its tattered sails billowing despite the dead calm. As it neared shore, Elias could see the crew lining the rails, skeletal figures in mildewed naval uniforms, their eye sockets glowing with that same eerie green light. A longboat rowed itself ashore. The skeleton at its bow wore the tattered remains of a captain's coat. When it spoke, its jaw didn't move, but the voice echoed inside Elias's skull. "Welcome home, brother." Macready and the others were dragged forward in chains. The Scotsman's face was bruised, his left eye swollen shut, but his remaining eye burned with defiance. "Elias," he spat through broken teeth. "Fight it, damn you!" Elias placed a hand on his chest where his heart should have been. Instead, he felt only the steady pulse of Marcus Dane's cursed heart, beating somewhere beyond flesh, beyond time. The hunger gnawed at him, worse than any starvation he had known at sea. He looked at his old friend and smiled. "I am fighting it, Mac. I'm fighting to keep you alive." Turning to the skeleton crew, he gave his first order. "Chain them below. They'll serve as living crew until the sea claims them." As his former crew was dragged away screaming, Elias waded into the surf. The water should have been cold, but he felt nothing. When he boarded the sanguine shadow, the crew fell to their knees, all but one. Chapter 10: The Hollow Chest. The figure waiting on the quarterdeck might have been handsome once. Now his flesh hung grey and waxy, preserved in some ghastly mockery of life. Captain Marcus Dane smiled, revealing teeth like shattered coral. "You took your time," Dane said, his voice like waves crashing on rocks. Without ceremony, he tore open his own chest, revealing only empty darkness where his heart should be. "Your turn." Elias didn't hesitate. He plunged his hand into his own chest. The pain was exquisite, like drowning and burning all at once. When he pulled his hand free, his own heart beat in his palm for 3 terrible seconds before crumbling to ash. Dane nodded approvingly. "Now you understand." His form began dissolving, his essence returning to the sea that had sustained him for centuries. As he faded completely, he whispered one last truth: "The hunger never stops." Lissa materialized beside Elias, her fingers trailing through the space where Dane had stood. 200 years I've waited for this," she murmured. 200 years watching captains come and fail." Her form shimmered, revealing glimpses of the beautiful woman she'd once been, before the curse took her too. Elias studied his new ship. The timbers groaned with unnatural life. The sails mended themselves before his eyes, and the crew, some were skeletons, others still clinging to rotting flesh, all bound to his will. "Where do we begin?" he asked. Lissa smiled her needle-toothed smile. "With revenge." Chapter 11: The First Hunt. The merchant ship, Morning Star, was 3 days out from Port Kay when the lookout spotted the black sails. Captain Hoyt, an old salt with 40 years at sea, felt his blood turn to ice. "The sanguine shadow," he whispered, then louder. "All hands, make sail." But no matter which way they turned, the ghost ship appeared ahead of them. It gained without wind, without oars, its hull cutting through waves like a knife through flesh. When it pulled alongside, Hoyt saw the new captain standing at the rail. a tall man with dark eyes that glowed faintly green. Behind him stood living crew members in various states of decay, their eyes vacant but their hands busy with the rigging. And chained to the mast, half mad with terror, Hoyt recognised Macready. The ghost captain spoke only once. "Run if you want to. It makes the hunt sweeter." As the Morning Star's crew began to scream, Captain Elias Vane smiled. The hunger roared inside him, but for now it would be fed. Chapter 12. The Eternal Curse. Years passed, decades. This sanguine shadow became legend, a ghost story told in taverns to frighten drunk sailors. But in certain ports, where the air smelled too much of salt and rotting flowers, old men would whisper the truth. They'd seen it. The black ship with tattered sails, the crew that never rested, the captain who stood at the helm with hollow chest and glowing eyes. And if you listened closely on still nights, when the tide was just right, you could hear it. The steady, relentless beating of a heart beneath the waves, calling, waiting. Some curses aren't meant to be broken. Epilogue. The last page. The journal washed ashore on a tiny nameless island. Its pages were waterlogged, most of the ink blurred beyond recognition, but the final entry remained legible, written in a shaking hand. If you're reading this, turn back. The treasure isn't gold, the chest isn't empty, and the heart, God help you, the heart is always hungry. Macready, formerly of the Marrow. The tide came in, the journal vanished beneath the waves, and somewhere in the deep, the heart beat on. The end.